We're on Maasrot, Perek Aleph, Mishnah Hey, fifth Mishnah in the first chapter of Maasrot. We're going to discuss the idea of goren for Maaser. Goren, in order to understand this, I want to share with you the Rambam in Hilchot Maasrot. Because in order to really understand this, you have to understand that produce is not chayav in Trumot Maasrot until it's what's called Gemar Melacha. Let's read the Rambam, and then we'll understand exactly what the Mishnah is talking about. It says the Rambam, Hilchot Maaser Perek Gimel. Produce that has reached the onata masrot, meaning onata masrot means they're sufficiently ripe. In the past few Mishnah, we've been discussing like when is a produce considered ripe? When they're spotty, or et cetera, et cetera. Like, remember we learned about when they're yunakedu and black ones when they have spots, et cetera, et cetera. That's called onata masrot. That the fruit is now ready, it's now ripened, and therefore it's chayav in masrot. So the fruit itself is chayav in Maasrot. But the Rambam says, you picked it, v'nit l'sho. V'adayin lo nigmara melachtan. Okay? But it's not gemar melacha. The produce itself is ready, but you didn't finish the work on it. Kagon, for example, tvu'ah shekatzara v'dasha. You threshed, you picked the wheat, tvu'ah, for example, grain, v'dasha, you threshed it. V'adayin lo zara'ota. You didn't, zorea is winnowing, i.e., it's still mixed. Once you thresh it, so you've got all the grains and it's all mixed in with all the garbage, okay? So you didn't do zuriya and below mircha, and you didn't do miruach. Miruach is a very important term. It's called miruach hakri. We've seen this in Masechet, I think, Trumot and Demai. We've seen it in a bunch of different Masechtot. Miruach hakri means that when in the olden days, they would finally collect all of the produce, they would stick it in a warehouse, and then the guy at the very end, what they would do is miruach. They would smear it down. Limruach. Miricha is like you would miruach cream cheese today. Miruach hakri, they would smear it down and have a nice smooth pile. So as long as it's not gemar melachto, you didn't do that, then mutar le'echol mehem achilat arai. A person is allowed to eat this what's called achilat arai. Very important term. Achilat arai, temporary consumption. Ad shetigamer melachtan. Until you have a gemar melacha. Gemar melacha means it's complete. The work on it is complete. And now it's ready to be stored. Once it's ready to be stored, then it's chayav in Trumot and Maasrot. Gemar melacha is what's kovea for Trumot and Melachot. Ukasheti gamer melachtan, once it has gemar melacha, then asur le'echol mehem arai. You're not allowed to eat those fruits or vegetables, achilat arai. But until then, you are allowed to eat them temporarily. So the classic example would be, I'm out in the orchard picking oranges. In the orchard, right there, I can eat an orange. That's achilat arai. It doesn't come to the goren. Okay? So therefore, one second. Okay. When is that true? If you're only going to sell them you're doing gemar melacha to sell them in the market. If you intend to take them to the house, into your home, after gemar melacha, let's say I've finished gemar melacha, but now I'm going to bring it into the house. Either the house or the chatzer. We're going to see the chatzer is also the chatzer is the extension, the yard, the field outside of the house. That's also considered your personal property. Has to be kovea lemaaser. Ve'echad mishisha dvarim kovea lemaasot. We have one of 6 possibilities that is kovea for maaser. Okay, and he gives a bunch of different examples that we're going to see them. Okay, but it has to be gemar melacha and kviut lemaaser, and then we're going to see knisa lebayit. That's the concept of let's go back to our Mishnah, Perek Aleph, Mishnah Hey. The Mishnah says, Ezehu garnam lemasrot, goren. Okay, what's the word goren from? What is considered the idea of goren? So the Bartanura says the following. Goren means the storehouse. Okay, where do we see from the storehouse? So the Bartanura says, Ematai hu kvu. Remember we saw that term? Kvi'at, perot lemasrot, v'asur le'echol mehem arai. Similarly, so the idea of garnan, of goren, means when is it kavua for ma'asrot, so that you cannot eat achilat arai. Shav al pi shehigiu haperot leonata ma'asrot. Remember we saw that the Rambam said this exact language. Even though the fruits and vegetables have gotten to onat ma'asrot, adayin mutar le'echol mehem arai ad she yehi garnam le'ma'asrot, until you have this goren for ma'aser. So what is considered the idea of reaching goren le'ma'aser, and after which it's considered in the goren, and therefore you cannot eat it achilat arai until after you've taken off trumot and maasrot. That's what our Mishnah is going to talk about. And this Mishnah and the next few Mishnayot what are considered goren for different kinds of produce. Says the Mishnah, Ezehu garnan the Maasrot. So what is considered goren after that whole introduction for the purposes of Trumot and Maasrot? Hakishuim, v'hadeluim. These are gourds, and kishuim are cucumbers, but it's not really cucumbers, it's like squash and gourds. Mishe yifaksu. What is mishe yifaksu? Mishe yinatel pekas shalahem. When you take off the pekas, what is that? It's like the small hairs that grow, and then no share. Okay, and the hair, it falls off. So, when the hair on them, after you pick them, when it's totally falls off, these are larger vegetables. So therefore, when the hair falls off, that's considered goren. Chayav and Maasrot, you can't eat achilat arai. And if you don't ever remove the hairs, you're going to sell them like that. When you make a pile of them. So when you're collecting them, so when maybe you'll cut them in the field, and then afterwards all the workers will collect them and put them in a pile. Avatiach is a melon of some kind. Mishe yishalek, and the Bartunera says yishalek is avatiach is pikus leluim. It's a special word for taking off the hairs. Mishalek, and if you don't take off the hairs off your avatichim, your melons, ad she'aseh muktzeh. Ad she'aseh muktzeh means, I'm just looking at the kahati for a second. Okay, meaning until a muktzeh is a place. A muktzeh we learned before, it's a place where they would specially store a certain item. Muktzeh is huktzah, designated. We'll learn Hilchot Shabbat, that it's designated for a purpose. So until yaseh muktzeh, until you put them into the muktzeh, into their place called muktzeh. Okay, yaraka ne'egad, if you have certain vegetation that's sold in bundles, for example, if you in the old markets, if you ever go to a market, garlic. They sell garlic, it's not as strands, they take strands and they bundle them up. So misha yogad, and from the time that you bundle them up, that's considered goren. Okay, and if you don't, until you fill, I'm collect garlic, but I'm collecting them in a basket, in a small basket, in a jug. Once it's full, then that's as much as I need. That's considered goren, and now I can't eat the garlic achilat arai. And if I'm not filling the kli, until I take whatever it was that I needed to take. Mishnah continues. Kalkala, what if I'm using not a kli, but I'm using a kalkala, a basket? Yichapeh. Yichapeh, Bartanura, yichapeh means to cover et hayarak b'hutzin o ba'alim. If I was using it for storage, they didn't have Tupperwares, so they would fill the basket, and I'm going to put it into storage. They would cover it over with leaves or like straw. Shedarkan lechasot bo. Okay, so that's considered enough until they cover it over. V'imeino mechapeh, and if you're not going to do that, achilat kol kli again until I fill the whole kli. V'imeino memalei et kli. Similarly, if I'm not going to fill the entire kli, achilat kol tzorcho until I collect everything that's necessary. So all of these are true, says the Mishnah. All of these are true. That they become goren. Remember, it's in the field already, so I'm collecting it. There's no middleman. I don't bring it home. I'm collecting in the field to take it to the market. So while it's already in the field, once I filled my basket, then it's considered ready for the goren. But if I'm going to bring it home, then ochel mehem arai ad shu magia lebeito. Then I'm allowed to eat achilat arai. Remember, we saw in the Rambam. Let's see if I can find the Rambam. We saw in the Rambam, right, that okay, dato leolicham labayit. Oh, we didn't see this. Perojadint ad shepishu nigmar melachtam ochel mehem arai ad shikansu labayit. So the achilat arai is ad shemagia lebeito until you reach your house. These are rules of if you tie it up or if you feel the kli, etc., are when you have the idea of taking it to the shuk. There's two things I want to point out here. First of all, it's interesting. Notice the difference. B'molich lashuk. When I take it to the shuk, i.e., I'm in the field and I'm taking it to the shuk, even though I haven't left already or I'm on my way. I don't have to get to the shuk. Okay? It's soon. Why I don't have to get to the shuk? B'molich lashuk limkor. Delav b'da'ato adavar talu. Because it's not based on him. Why? Shema yimsalu kuchot. Maybe you'll meet somebody on the way. If you are perot tvulim, then the pair will be tevel. Shameka kover lema'aser. So the Kahati points out that in the Yerushalmi says that what it means is b'molichol l'shuk. B'molich l'shuk. As soon as you're molich to the shuk, now you're ready to sell it. Once you're ready to sell, then you can no longer eat achilat arai. But molich lebeito, but if I'm taking it home, then I'm not going to sell it, and it has to be adshehu magia lebeito until I get to my house. How do I know it's magia lebeito? Okay, da'ato talu. It's based on me. V'lo yeh my dat, my knowledge, my intention. V'lo yeh perot tvulim ad sheyagia lebeito. And it's not considered even tevel. It's not considered chayav and truma to Maasrot until I get to my house. She'tevel eino chayav b'maaser ad sheyireh pnei habayit. Because tevel is only chayav in maaser when it yireh pnei habayit, when it sees my house. Dichtiv bi'arti hakodesh min habayit. I'm a little over time, but I'm still going to bring you this pasuk. Where is the pasuk? Here we are. This is from the pasuk, the psukim of Biur Maasrot. Says the Torah, Devarim Perek Chaf Vav. That should have been bold. Ki techaleh le'aser et kol ma'aser tvuatcha b'shana shlishit shanat ha'ma'aser. At the end of the third year, when you have to finish taking off trumot, you give it to the Levi, Yatom L'Amana, and they ate, blah, blah, blah. You have to say, you have to declare, Bi'arti hakodesh min habayit. I have been meva'er, I have destroyed, I have removed all of this kodesh from my house. From there, the Rambanan derive, when does it become chayiv in Maasrot? When it reaches the bayit, when it reaches the house. I lost my place. Back to the Mishnah. When does it become chayiv in Maasrot? When it's bi'arti hakodesh min habayit ad sheyireh pnei habayit. So these are, the next few Mishnayot are going to discuss the idea of goren the Maasrot. We've discussed kishuim, diluyim, different kinds of produce. Now the next Mishnah are going to discuss all different kinds of produce when it's considered goren for the purposes of Maasrot. We'll stop here. It's enough. If you have any comments or questions, arspoter@gmail.com. And we'll dedicate this learning, as always, to the memory of my father, Rav Simcha ben Yitzchak Kalman. Have a good day.